Hello and welcome all you Geminis. This is your not monthly but yearly horoscope for 2017. Now, you are a mutable sign, eh? Mutable signs didn't have the easiest year last year. I mean in general. Don't forget these are general horoscopes. Because there was this insecurity going on. Not clearness between Saturn, Neptune, Jupiter, all these big planets. Now this is over, and this is good news for the Geminis. Good news for the Geminis is that they won't feel that restricted anymore that much. Still, of course, Saturn is in your opposite sign, and some Geminis, the ones who've got planets between 20 up until the end of the sign, will feel Saturn transit in an opposition, but there's a huge difference now because Saturn at the same time will receive a very positive aspect from Uranus, and I'll explain that in a minute. So if you are a Gemini, when your birthday is around the 11th of June up until the 21st, so those will feel Saturn very strongly in an opposition. So, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because I talked a lot about that last year in the monthlies. Saturn in your opposite sign of relationships, it's like structuring you and them at the same time. It's like structuring what do you want in a relationship, where do you want to have your boundaries, not too strict, not too loosen. You will sense the responsibilities that a relationship can bring. And if you don't have a relationship, it can simply mean that it takes a bit of time to know what you want and to know what you can present to someone else and vice versa, what you need in a relationship. So that is all ongoing still in 2017 because Saturn shifts sign only at the 21st of December into Capricorn. So you will have the whole year still Saturn there restructuring your relationships. So for some of you, of course, it will still be a reality check when it comes to relationships. But the change now, as I said, is that it trines Uranus in your 11th house. And this is fantastic because Uranus is the planet of innovation. Saturn is the planet of you could say, what do you want to keep? It's like the past versus the future. It's like restrictions and boundaries versus innovation versus liberty. And it's very, it might sound strange, but it is in your maturity, how you relate to others in a mature way, that you are finding hope and liberty when it comes to your new aspirations in life or with friendships even. It could mean that for those of you who are looking for love, it could be a friend because Uranus in your 11th is trining Saturn, and it will be a very stable relationship because your relationships for the Geminis, and this is what Gemini really wants, your relationship is actually steady but also very fresh. And a Gemini needs that, especially the fresh part, because a Gemini will not be happy if everything goes the same way. It's kind of restless, you could say, but it's just the way you are wired. There's nothing wrong with that. So even in an existing relationship, whilst there is stability going on, there is still a lot of flexibility and hope and freshness when it comes to maybe you've got some new plans for the future, you with your loved one. And if you are single, maybe you really want to do something new that is quite out of the ordinary because it's Uranus in your 11th house. Now this Uranus in your 11th house, which could be more networking, more maybe starting your own business, because this is aspected from your 5th house where Jupiter is. So it could mean that you start your own little business. It could mean that you start being way more expressive than you already are and enjoying that. I already mentioned that last month in December, the monthly horoscopes of December. There is this huge energy going on in these very heart chakra kind of houses. So whatever it is if there is a hobby that you want to elaborate and that you want to make money out of it, it's on in 2017, especially around March and September time, because then Jupiter opposes Uranus in those two houses. And very often I see someone who's breaking through with a hobby and who's earning a bit of money, because the 11th house, don't forget, is the second house of the 10th, which means earnings if you have your own company. A social year for Geminis, and that's the way that Geminis like it to be. And there is, of course, a lot of Mercury retrogrades. They are all in Earth signs. In January in Capricorn, in April in Taurus, in August in Virgo. And at the very end, and that's going to be the most important one for you in December, at 29 degrees of Sagittarius. So again, there is this like, at the very end of the year, you're pretty much sure, and it's not at just the end of the year, but you're pretty much sure who's with you and who's not. And that's with Saturn there also in your 7th house and Mercury going retrograde, Mercury being you, because that's your ruler. So Mars is not going retrograde, but Venus is going retrograde. Again, in a very nice part of your horoscope. Again, in that 11th house where Uranus is. So you can expect some fresh new things happening with friends. You can expect some fresh new things happening with networking, with associates. If you are interacting with groups, interacting with internet, YouTube, internet and Facebook, but not necessarily. It could simply be a club that you are being a part of, and you are doing things together with like-minded people, and you're getting a lot of meaning out of that. So it's a very Gemini kind of year, 2017, with not that many, still with some restrictions and some delays, especially when it comes to relationships, but not as tough as last year. It's for everyone a less tough year. I mean, again, this is very, very general. I should see your own horoscope, of course, but in general terms, it doesn't look bad at all. So Venus going retrograde there in your 11th house. It could, again, if you are single, around the time of March up until June, there could be someone, you know, a friend could become a little bit more there. If you want that to happen, it's really on, and it's a lot of reflecting as well when it comes to not only relationships, but when it comes to your future, because that's, so a lot of emphasis on fellow air house, which is the 11th house, the house of Aquarius, the future. Now, eclipses will happen in Leo and in Aquarius. There's one in Pisces as well in February, but that's not that important, I think, although it could mean for you that there is some opening up when it comes to work, an ending or a new beginning in February. Could be the case. But there is also a lot going on in Leo and Aquarius. So this is really interesting because this is a fellow air sign. So I think the eclipses in February and in August won't be that drastic for you Geminis this year. Last year they were more drastic. And I'm going to explain them a little bit more. It's in your thinking houses. So there could be some new beliefs coming in, some old way of perception that is going. So I think it's certainly not negative at all. So in general, yes, relationships can still be some sort of reality check, but there is more freshness coming in. If you also apply yourself a bit more in a fresh way, the relationship could be really, really long term now. If you just have started one, for instance. When it comes to work, so Jupiter enters Scorpio on the 11th of October. So that is your house of work, and so there could be a more meaningfulness around the end of the year, because this trines Neptune as well in your 10th house. So you could do something spiritual when it comes to work, or something that is has more to do with teaching, So there is expansion going on, but more the end of the year when it comes to work. So all in all, quite an enjoyable year. I would say enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.